Hello, we're in chapter 9, which is our first chapter, which seems maybe out of sync. There's a couple of references in chapter 9 to chapter 8 or one of the previous ones, but have no fear. Anything that we haven't talked about up to this point, which is basically ground zero. Let's start again. Hello there. Welcome to Math 120. We're going to start with chapter 9. It just fits in sort of well. And it's one of my favorites too, even though this is the first time through it for me for this particular book. Everything that might be mentioned in this chapter, I'll take care of as we go along. So chapter 9, section 1, measuring length. And this includes starting to talk about the metric system. One day I guess we'll switch, but not yet. We're going to talk about dimensional analysis. And if that's scary, don't worry about it. It's a big name for something that really is not important for you to remember, except that you're going to use it. So let's check this out. Okay, had to check the pen here. The pen's working. You can see the pen. We're going to talk about metric prefixes, and you are already familiar with some of these, I'm sure, like the centimeters, kilometers, kilograms, and so on. Those are the metric prefixes. And you've heard others too, micro, mini, and so on. So it's not unfamiliar, and you'll pick up the rest of them pretty easily. One thing you'll want to do though is when you get to one of these tables, you might want to write them down on paper from your own hand. The reason I mentioned the hand part is that you can type them up on your computer, but you're better able to remember them if you actually write them down by hand. Number 4, we're going to use that dimensional analysis to change to and from the metric system. Now here's your first huge tip, and you're going to think this might be a little bit silly, but your first tip is number 1. Now that doesn't sound like much, but it's important because we're going to write 1 in different ways. For example, you could write 1, a little bit slow here on the computer, as 1 foot over 1 foot. Might seem a little bit strange, but that's still the number 1 because you've got the same thing on the top and the bottom. You can cancel them out, you end up with a 1. If you can get that, you've got most of chapter 9 in your control. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to take this one step further. If 1 foot over 1 foot equals 1, then 1 foot over 12 inches is also the number 1. Because 1 foot, 12 inches, same thing. So this is equal to 1 as well. If you can do that, you're in great shape. So with that in mind, let's move on. We've got linear units of measure here. And let's see, just make sure I know where I'm writing here. Okay, so first of all, we're going to talk about linear units of measure in the English system, the one you're most familiar with. I'm just writing these X's because my graphics pen is being a little bit strange this morning, but it'll work out. So we just talked about this a second ago. 12 inches equals 1 foot. And you know one reason why we're interested in that, because 12 inches over 1 foot, or 1 foot over 12 inches gives us the number 1. So here we go. So I have a hard time writing here because I can't see where this is going. Okay. 1 foot over 12 inches. And that's the number 1. But just as well, we could write 12 inches on the top and 1 foot on the bottom, and we're still talking about our friend number 1. So when we have equalities like that, that means you can put 1 on the top, 1 on the bottom. It doesn't matter which one. It only depends on which one you need to be where. And we'll get back to there. 3 feet equals 1 yard. You writing these down? Of course, you can always go to Blackboard, look under Course Documents, Chapter 9, which will be the first one, and you can actually just print these out for yourself, or print them out temporarily and write them out yourself, in case some might not be as familiar. 36 inches a yard. Now this one you might or might not know without having a piece of paper in front of you, but 1 mile equals 5,280 feet. So you can put 1 on the top, 1 on the bottom, either way, and it's equal to the number 1. Unit fractions, that's what we're talking about. The ones where you're actually talking about the number 1. This is acting rather strangely. Oh well, let's get through this. So there's our unit fraction, the one I talked about already. You can write it either way and you still have the unit fraction. 3 feet over 1 yard, same thing. It's still the number 1. Or reverse them, you've still got the number 1, because 1 over 1 equals 1 over 1, right? Equals 1. And there's for the mile, and there's a second look for the mile. Next, dimensional analysis. Now that sounds scary, but it really only has to do for us with the number 1. If you want to change, for example, let's see if I can put this here. If you want to change, let's suppose you've got 60 miles per hour, and per means divide, so I'm going to write this as a fraction for convenience. 60 miles per hour, 60 miles over 1 hour. Now, if I want that in a different form, let's suppose I want this in feet per second. Oh, darn. How am I going to do that? Am I going to ask someone? Am I going to go to someone's office and say, can you change this for me? Well, you don't really need to. So, first of all, you want it in feet per second. So, first of all, you look here. I don't want miles, I want feet per second. So, if I'm going to change this, I'm going to have to be able to cancel the miles. So I'll put the miles on the bottom. Got that? Now, what do I want? I want feet. So I'll put feet on the top. Got it so far? Now, we haven't taken care of the numbers yet. That's what's next. Now, you look at those two, feet and miles. Which one is the larger unit? Well, obviously, 1. 1 mile. How many feet? Well, if you've written that down, you've got it on a table somewhere, 5,280 feet. And there's your unit fraction. Now, take note that this is a unit fraction. It's equal to 1. So if I multiply 60 miles per hour times this strange-looking fraction, it still is 60 miles per hour. It just has a different look. Now, what's next? Okay, I don't want hours. I want to cancel that out. So the hours will have to go on the top. And what do I want? Well, I want feet per second. let's make it easier for ourselves. Let's go from hours to minutes, then minutes to seconds. Then we'll have what we want. So put hours on the top. We want to cancel that out. On the bottom, we want to change this to minutes temporarily. Now we'll take a look at this. Which one's bigger? The hour is bigger. So if you don't have an equation or a formula that says so many hours equals so many minutes, you can do this. And how many minutes are in an hour? 60 minutes. Now, I don't want the minutes, so what am I going to do? I'm going to put the minutes on the top. I'm running out of space here, but it'll work. And what do I want? I want seconds. Now, which one of these is bigger? The minutes. 1 minute equals 60 seconds. Now, grab your calculator. This is time to do the math. So you have across the top, you have 60 times 5,280 times 1 times 1, and you can figure that for yourself if you want to. You don't really need to, because if you put all these in parentheses, then the calculator is going to do this. And what do you need to divide by? Well, let's look at the denominator. We've got 1 hour times 1 hour, so it's 1 times 1. We won't bother with that. And times 60, and then times another 60. So on the top we had 60 times 5,280, and all we need to do is use our calculator very carefully, and what we'll find is that the magnitude, or the number part of it, is 88. And after we cancel units to cancel out, like the hours being canceled by the hours, and the minutes and so on, we're left with feet over seconds, also known as 88 feet per second. And you've got the conversion done. That is dimensional analysis. Very simple. We're just using the unit fraction, or the number 1. Just multiply by the unit fraction until you get what you need, and then take care of the actual numbers using your calculator. The given unit of measurement should appear in the denominator of the unit fraction. In other words, just follow what I said earlier. You're going to cancel out what you don't want there. You're going to include what you do want there, and magically you'll have your answer. So let's take an example here. We've got 40 inches to feet, and I'm going to do something that'll probably only show on mine. There we go. So, all right. So I've got a clean slate here, and I'm going to take the 40. Where's my cursor? There. So I'm going to take the 40. Having trouble with the pen here. So 40 inches. Now we want to change this to feet. How do we do that? Well, I don't want inches, so inches will go in the bottom, so these will cancel. What do I want? What I want is feet, so it'll go on the top. Now, 1 foot equals 12 inches, so I've got it all set up. So all I need to do is divide 40 by 12, and I'll end up with 3.3 feet, or 3 1/3 feet. It depends on how you need to write that out. 3 1/3 or 3.3 repeating. And it's in feet now instead of inches. So let's see if you can do this. Hit the pause and see if you can do this one by yourself, and then come back. All right, you're back. I hope you gave it a try. It doesn't matter whether you got it right or not. Just give it a shot. So 13 200 feet. And what we're going to do is we want it in miles. So this will cancel out the feet. And we do want the miles, so we'll put it up here. 1 mile equals 5,280 feet. So the feet will cancel out. We'll have our answer in miles the way we want it. And a little bit of calculator work. 13,200 divided by 5,280. And we've got 2.5 miles. We've got the miles instead of the feet. That's all there is to dimensional analysis and changing units of measurement. Now this can be very handy even in construction or nursing. Lots of places where maybe you have a measurement in inches and you need to go to the store and get something that's measured in feet typically. So there are applications to this. So get handy with it. It's pretty easy. Next, we're going to take a look at metric prefixes, and some of these you know, some of these you might not. Now, what they don't show here is that this is the middle of this table. This middle represents one of anything, so you don't have a prefix. 10 or something is deca, meters, meters, grams, or whatever it is. Hecto means 100 of them. Kilo, you probably already know, is 1,000 of some. Kilo means 1,000. In the other direction, 1/10, use the word for the prefix deci. 100th, centi, like centipede or centimeters. 1,000th, milli, and that shows up a lot in our daily life as well. So get these down, put them in your own table, in your own writing, so you have them ready. Have a small, let's say, book beside you. So when you need to switch, if you need a reminder, just open it up. There it is. It can move from one to the other. So here are some examples using, first of all, you've got your unit 1 down here. This is 1 meter, and going up, we've got 10 meters, decameters, 100 meters, hectometers, and 1,000 meters, kilometers or kilometers. In the other direction, if we're taking fractions, going by tens, of course, 1/10 of a meter is a decimeter, 100th is a centimeter, 1,000th is the millimeter. Once you get used to it, it's very simple, and you might get so converted that you'd like to use meters all the time. In fact, when I'm doing my leather work and I'm measuring and trying to find where I'm going to cut something or where I'm going to mark it off, where I'm going to paint it, occasionally I'll just use the metric system because it's easier than using the English system. Now, we've got a chart to find equivalent measures of length. Now, this is one you really want to put somewhere, because you might not have these memorized. Here we go. Okay, there we go. So this is how you can go. Going in either direction. You don't have to start from the middle. If someone gives you something in decameters, you can start right here and then go to the right or go to the left, depending on what you need to do. If you need to multiply by 10, you go to the right. If you need to divide by 10, you go to the left. A little bit of practice, this makes a whole lot of sense. Remember, multiplying, you're going to change by going to the right, dividing, you're going to be going to the left. All right, so how do we change this? 504 7/10 meters, we want to change that to kilometers. So how do we do that? Well, we want to move along that line. So take a look back here. We want to get to a larger unit, so this number is going to become smaller. They sort of compensate for each other. Kilometers are a bigger unit, so we're going to go to a smaller number or magnitude back here. So you're going to move 3 steps from meters to kilometers. So you go from meters to decameters to hectometers to kilometers. You start at the meters, 3 steps to the left because you're getting to something bigger, and you get the smaller number. And so you start to this decimal point, move that 3 places to the left to get the kilometers. So we move this over here, and the meters become kilometers. Try another one. Can you do this by yourself? Give it a shot. There's nothing to lose. No one's watching, but I'm not even watching. Meters to centimeters. You're moving to something smaller, so this number is going to get bigger. How many places? Meters to centimeters. That's a movement of 100, so you're going to move 2 places. You want to end up with a bigger number. So first of all, here's your number, 27. Where's the decimal point? It's right here. You need to move it 2 places to the right, so we'll need to add some placeholders. So add 2 zeros, move the decimal point 1 place, 2 place, and now you've got centimeters. And there you go. 2,700 centimeters is the equivalent of 27 meters. Some English metric equivalents. This is important, so when you're talking about metrics, some of this will make a little bit more sense. So we'll take a look at this. Some of these you actually ought to know by heart. This gets used a lot, this first one. 1 inch equals 2.54 centimeters. Now, it mentioned this out in front here on the right. It says these conversions are exact. What does that mean? Well, 1 inch is actually defined as 2.54 centimeters exactly. So this isn't rounded off. This is exactly 2.54 centimeters. So this is a good one to know. Now the second one will be handy if you're converting units, but it's not something that you're going to use a whole lot, especially in your daily life. You won't look at a foot and think, oh, that's a little over 30 centimeters. Well, you might after a while, but this isn't one you're going to use as much as this one right here. 1 yard, 0.9 meters. Now this is not exact. In fact, if you're interested, it's equal to 0.9144 meters. But for our purposes, 0.9 is going to be close enough. So you can use that. It makes things a little bit easier for you and easier to remember as well. Next, mile. This is approximate. There is an exact one. And just because I have used this so often, I happen to know it by heart. 1.609344. That's the exact value. But 1.6 gives you a pretty good idea. 1 mile, if you're going somewhere in kilometers, Or you've got a car that says kilometers instead of miles. Every mile is a little bit over 1.5 kilometers. But you want to have this in your little measurement book, let's call it, the one that's going to help you. Some people call it a cheat sheet. It's not cheating, it's just playing smart. So here's a chance to convert. So let's see what we've got here. First of all, let's see where my marker is. There we go. So 125 miles. I want to change that to kilometers. So first thing I want to do is I want to get rid of the miles, so they'll go in the bottom. I want to get to kilometers, so they'll go in the top. Now if you look at the previous page, we'll just sneak back there a second. That last one says 1 mile and 1.6 kilometers are the same. So 1 mile and 1.6 kilometers. If you want to, you can make 1.609344. That's up to you. I'll let you use 1.6. And then all you have to do is, the miles are gone, you got the kilometers, and multiply those. And that's approximately 200 kilometers. And you've made a conversion. It's that easy, really. Remember, this right here is a unit fraction. It's equal to the number 1, just in a strange form. Or, in our case, it's a helpful form. Next, let's change millimeters to inches. Okay. Now, if you look back at that table you copied, you might say, I think I might be in trouble. I've got 26,800 millimeters. How can I do this? Well, I want to get 2 inches. Well, first of all, I can go within the metric system. I want to get rid of the millimeters, so that'll go on the bottom. First of all, I want to get the centimeters because I do have centimeters to inches. I do have that on my table. So if I get here, then I can get to the inches part. So which one of these is bigger? 1 centimeter is a little bit bigger. We move 2 places. It's equal to 10 millimeters because they're small. It takes 10 of those to make a centimeter. This will get me from the 26,800 millimeters to its equivalent in centimeters. But that's not good enough. I need inches. So another unit fraction. I don't want the centimeters here, so that'll cancel the centimeters out. I do want inches, so that goes on the top. Now, if I sneak back, I can see that 1 inch equals 2.54 centimeters, so I'm going to use that. So 1 inch equals 2.54 centimeters, and I'm ready to go. The centimeters cancel out, the millimeters cancel out, I end up with inches. And there's my answer. 26,800 millimeters equals 1,055 inches, approximately. And that's it for section 9.1. I'll see you again soon in section 9.2, where we're going to talk about some similar things. Get some practice with this because we're going to use it all chapter long. Now this chapter is a bit on the short side, so you want to get on this right away. Get enough practice. Use the odd numbered problems to get in practice. If you need some more practice, let me know. I've got some worksheets I can pass on too. Well, until next time, take it easy. Bye-bye.